Welcome to the Deal Divers podcast, where we uncover actual closed deals and find out those gems, those jewels, and that knowledge to help you close your very next deal. I am your host, Ty Franklin, also known as Ty the Investor on Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you go ahead and do that right now, because I drop a lot of tips every single day about wholesaling real estate that can help you close your next deal. In this episode, I got another special guest, man. This guest right here, he's been crushing it since like 2019. He just closed another deal. He got the check in his hand. He just showed me the check. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. I don't even know how much the check is for. He didn't even tell me, but he's going to tell us in a second. I'd like to introduce you guys to my guy, Tyvon, man. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, guys? Man. Thank you for having me. It's my first podcast, so I'm excited and nervous at the same time. So bear with me, everybody.
It's all good. It's all good. So this deal that you closed, because I know everybody's want to know, how much was that deal that you just closed, man?
All right, so this deal right here was originally it was like $4,500, but I ended up having to pay some closing costs for the buyer. So after all things said and done, this one was $3,467.93.
All right, so we're gonna say 3,500.
Yep.
Hey, man, my first deal was only 3,000. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Granted, this ain't your first deal, obviously, but let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about what market that you typically work in, like where you located, things like that.
So I typically work in Illinois. That's where I'm from. And this particular deal was here in Illinois as well. So this is where I'm working currently. We are right now trying to get some deals under contract in Ohio and in Indy. So trying to do those two markets virtually. So we'll see if we can get some deals done out there too.
Gotcha. So are you doing wholesaling like full time right now, or is this like a part-time thing for you?
Man, so wholesaling for me has been super part-time. But now I'm at that stage where I would like to make this thing a bit more full-time. Mm-hmm. Ever since 2019, I've been able to do like a deal or so, 2 deals, 3 deals. I'd like to get it to where it's a lot more consistent and have more processes. So like to answer your question, yeah, right now it's part-time, but I'm trying to ramp up and get systems in place to make it a bit more full-time.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's how everybody starts out anyway, right? Like you obviously you working and you decide you don't want to do work anymore. So it's like, all right, let me start my side hustle. Then you start side hustle. You want your side hustle to turn into your main thing. So
absolutely.
I get that.
And I didn't mention it, but I'm a full-time firefighter. So I do have a full-time job. So yeah. So I do this stuff on the side as well.
Man, you worked on long hours. What is it like? What 70 something hours on and something off or something like that?
So we do 24 hours on, 48 off.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, man.
Crazy. Yeah. But I hear sometimes I know some firefighters, they be playing video games and stuff like that when ain't nothing going on most of the time. I got a couple buddies that used to be firefighters. They told me about that.
Oh yeah. So some days it could be a rough 24, and other days it could be very chill. You may have 2 or 3 calls and be chilling. So
yeah. Okay, so now let's talk about how you got introduced to wholesaling. Like, how did you stumble upon wholesaling? What made you jump into the wholesale space?
So, like I said, 2019, I was a full-time entrepreneur, but I was a personal trainer. I had my own studio at the time, and it was doing pretty well, man. I started that in 2018. 2019, it had grown quite significantly. I was doing very well. Then I believe the first time I ever heard about wholesaling was from a guy named Mark Whitten. I don't know if you know who that name is. Mark Whitten was on the Breakfast Club, and he did an interview, and he was talking about this thing called wholesaling and how you need little money, no credit, and it could be done relatively quick. And I was like, man, this sounds too good to be true. But that hour and a half long interview, I was locked in like, man, like this is interesting. I never heard this before. You mean to tell me I can get into real estate this way? So the first time I ever heard Mark Whitten speak, I called my cousin, Bud, right away. And I was like, bro, you need to watch this interview. You need to check this out. This is something we could do. He has I think at that time he had a course for, it was like $29 or something like that to get into his course. So I bought it, checked it out. And then I kind of fell off of it from there. And then I kept doing personal training, was running my business. It was doing well. Then the pandemic came. And once they announced, like, no more gyms, all this stuff, which was crazy, I was like, okay, I have to figure out something in this moment right now. At that time, my girlfriend at the time, and I had my daughter who was about 1.5. I was like, I have to figure something out here to keep this, money coming.
Right.
So then I went back to that course. Then I started just diving deep into YouTube. I came across a guy named Ty the Flip Man. I don't know if you know who that is.
I know him.
Ty the Flip Man. And he had like 300 videos on YouTube. Crazy. And I went down a lot of them, man. Binge watched them. And that was 2020. So I think, that to answer your question. Yeah, that was my start. That was my first initial start into finding out what wholesaling was.
So what was it about wholesaling that really attracted you to doing it?
Man, them big checks. I ain't gonna lie. Those big checks. The big checks people were showing you, people are making 20 grand, 15 grand, even 10, 5, most people in this world don't even make 5 grand in a month at their job. So to see people able to get a 5K check, and you mean to tell me all I have to do is hustle and show some grit and consistency? Like, I can do that all day. So it was really like, the ability to put the work in, make some good substantial money. That's what really attracted me to that.
Yeah. Now, after you looked at that course the second time, like once the pandemic came around, and you looked at Flipman's all his videos, because I've seen his YouTube channel is crazy.
Yep.
How long did it take you to actually take action? Because I know a lot of people, you kind of submerge yourself in all this information and you get the analysis by paralysis, right? You get in that phase because it's like, okay, you feel like you're missing something. You don't feel confident, but it's like, dude, you look at all these videos, read all these different things. How long did it take for you to actually start taking action and get started into doing work?
Yeah, man. So, and I got it all written down right here just because my memory is trash. So I always got to have stuff written down. So that was during 2020. I believe it took, I want to say maybe that was like 4 or 5 months after I had initially started, and I got my first deal done in 2020.
So 4 or 5 months and you got your first deal.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It took me like 6. It took me 6 months. So okay, cool. So now how many deals have you done total since then?
So since then I have done, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, you counting up.
So so I've done about like 9. And again, that's me doing this very much like part-time without really putting the effort into it like I need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you double dutching. You in and out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, got that. Yeah.
How many have you done this year though so far? Because we were in December now pretty much. So
yep. So closing up the fourth quarter of this year, I had it, let me see. So I did a deal. So 2. It's going to be 2. Yes, for 2023, it'll be 2 deals. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So like people jump into the game and they expect, they want to, obviously everybody wants to close, as many deals as possible, 5 deals a month, 6, 7 deals a month. But sometimes all you really need, especially if you're doing it part-time, additional income, an extra $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a year, that's really helpful, especially when it comes at that time where it's like, oh, you know what I mean? When you work in these full-time jobs, that's, a lot of people, but most people, you like kind of barely getting by, especially how the economy is going right now. And the job market is not trying to match it. When you come across a deal here and there, like that can really change things for you, especially, your day-to-day and how you live your life, right? So, and your livelihood.
Absolutely.
So for people out there that's listening, like you don't necessarily have to create a system to close deals like every single month. Obviously, that's probably the goal for some people, but for other people, they're happy with their jobs, right? The job creates stability. But if you're able to still do this part-time and pick off, like you're firefighter, right? So firefighters, in my opinion, I'm not 100% familiar, but I'm pretty confident they make pretty decent money, right? But obviously there's a need for more. But it's like, you know, if I'm happy with my job or happy with my position and I have the stability, if I can do this part-time and add an extra 10, 20, $30,000 a year and only do 2 deals, that's not a bad deal to me, you know? So you don't necessarily have to, you know, close a deal every single month. You can do this part-time and still make some additional money.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. Cool. So let's jump into this deal, man. So you said you made $3,500 net profit after this deal was closed. So let's jump into the deal. So tell me about the deal. How did you find the lead for this particular deal? How did you find the seller?
Okay, so right now the method that I'm using is different from when I first started. When I first started, I actually got lucky and kind of just stumbled upon that deal, and we can get into that first if you want later. But after that first deal, I just pulled a bunch of lists, and that's how I was getting deals after that. But this particular deal, I have a virtual assistant. Mm-hmm. Her name is Dorothy, and we used the driver for Dorothy. Yeah, shout out to Dorothy. She's great. She's actually been with me since 2021.
Okay.
So we use Driver for Dollars, right? And the little switch up that we do is she's virtually doing it. So when I'm at my fire job and I'm working 24 hours and I can't really be, you know, working on wholesaling, she's still driving for dollars virtually for 3 hours a day in the background. And she's adding leads to my list.
Okay, for people who don't understand what that is, can you break down exactly what she's doing? You said driving for dollars virtually. What does that look like? What does that entail for her?
Yep. So driving for dollars is a method to where you hop in the car and you're driving around your own neighborhood or another neighborhood or whatever market you're in. You're driving around looking for distressed properties, whether that's broken windows, roof damage, tall grass, a property that looks kind of run down a little bit, and you're adding that to your list. That's driving for dollars. Right. And for her to do it virtually, she's actually in the Philippines.
Okay.
So she has access to the app. She logs in, and within that app, Deal Machine's app, she can map out her route, and I can see exactly where she's driving and all that. And she's just plugging leads right into our lead system.
Okay. So as you're working, you're a firefighter, you're on your shift. She's working, you said, what, 3 hours a day? Just virtually driving around on the Deal Machine app to identify and on a satellite view so she can actually see what the houses look like in any market that you guys are working in.
Absolutely.
And she's adding them to a list and creating that list. And that's how you found this particular lead here.
Yes, sir. Yep. That's how you found this one.
Okay, cool. Now, after you found the lead, how did you get in contact with the lead?
So then after we found the lead, I skip traced the lead. And then I just simply called the numbers on there, and first person popped up. And it's funny because if we would have took action just a little bit sooner, he would have had another house for us. But it sat for so long that the city had already taken it and all that stuff. But he would have been willing to sell that previous house as well. But yeah, I skip traced it, found him, talked to him, and he was pretty easy to work with and deal with.
Okay, cool. And then within the Deal Machine app, you skip trace it there, or did you go externally?
And within the Deal Machine app, yeah.
Okay, got you. So from the moment that she added it into the Deal Machine app that went to your database, and the moment that you called him, what was that time frame like? How long in between time was that, you think?
So it was probably, I would say, like 12 hours. So as soon as I got off shift. So I got off at 7 a.m. I got home, got situated, and then by like noon, I was skip tracing him, calling him.
Okay, and you got in contact with him that day?
Yep.
Okay, got you. So now, what was his motivation for selling the property? So what was that conversation like when you talked to him?
So that particular property actually was a fire damage property.
Okay.
So he was motivated because it had caught the kitchen caught on fire, and the kitchen and I would say like the dining room had extensive damage. And his motivation was he already got paid out by the insurance company.
Okay.
So he's an out of state owner. He's an absentee owner. So that property was just a rental for him at that time. So he's like, I got paid out X amount, 200,000, 100,000, whatever he got paid out. And he's like, well, if you want to buy this, go ahead, because I don't really care for it no more. So
what a coincidence that you're a firefighter and this property that you closed was a fire damaged property.
Yes. So
how crazy is that?
Yeah, it is crazy. And when I talk to the seller, he's also like, "Oh yeah, you must have been there." I'm like, "No, actually I wasn't." And it is a coincidence, but we just driving for dollars. You can tell that it's a fire damage when you're driving for dollars, virtually or in person, because it's all boarded up and you can see a little bit of the burns and stuff. But yeah, so kind of crazy that I am a firefighter and we're taking down fire damage properties.
That's insane. Okay, I got some more questions about that towards the end about that. Okay, now, you get him on the phone. He wanted to sell it because obviously he's out of state. He's an absentee owner, out of state. Property's burnt up. He doesn't want to deal with it. It was a tenant property, and he got his insurance money. He just wanted to be done with it. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you come up with the offer? What did you guys talk about as far as numbers? How did you go about getting that property under contract? What was that conversation like?
So as I'm talking to him, like, I told him straight off the jump, like I'm a wholesaler here in Peoria. And what I do is I buy distressed property and, gave my little spiel. And like I said, he was super easy. He basically was like, yeah, I know what wholesaling is. He's like, that's how I got started. He actually has like 100 properties actually. And he's like, yeah, that's how I got started. So, I'm not really looking to get much from this. And I just let him do the talking mostly. And then he threw out a number first, which is always nice when they throw their number out first.
Absolutely.
Because I was going to actually, so he threw out 5,000 is what he threw out. And I'm like, perfect. Because I was going to probably come in at like 7,800. That's what I was looking to come in at. Mm-hmm. And the houses in this particular zip code area aren't valued that much. I think these houses that all fixed up go for about like 70 grand, 80 grand, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I knew I needed to get it super, super cheap, and that it may be hard trying to find a buyer that's going to want to come in here and put in. They were still going to have to put in probably 20, 30,000. So right. Your numbers aren't that great. You know what I mean? And the way I found that out was just through Deal Machine. They have an analyzer in there as well on that app. So you can get comps on there. You can, they have like an AI function on there, it's all right. It's getting better, but you can click the AI and have them analyze the property for you. The AI will analyze it and then kind of like spit out some rough numbers for you. Mm-hmm. And I kind of took those rough numbers and adjusted them myself. And that's how I agreed to his 5 and then gave him, that's what we got there.
So on the Deal Machine app, it has like, I guess, a calculator or it has the analytics that show you like what properties similar worth, like comps and things like that. Give you kind of like a ballpark. And then I guess, does it have the function of you can make an offer or kind of seeing what the value of that house would potentially be on there as well?
It does. Yep. And you can have it give you an offer script as well. And then when you click analyze, it will tell you if it's a good wholesale deal or not. And then it'll give you like a quick sample of a spreadsheet.
Wow.
And then it'll tell you like the estimated repair cost, the ARV, and a few other things too. So it gives you some good data. That's not always accurate, but enough for a person to get in there and see that. And then you may have to do your own due diligence further to see if you can get those numbers a bit more accurate, if that makes sense.
Right. So within the app, you was able to identify fairly quickly whether or not his asking price of 5,000 made sense or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. And then from there, it made sense that you saw like, what was the next steps from there? What did you got? Did you say, hey man, let's do it? Or like, what did that look like?
Yep. So as soon as he said 5, if he wanted 5, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, perfect, let's do it. So then I continued to talk to him, built some rapport with him. Then I was like, you know what? Okay, if this is okay with you, I can email you a DocuSign, have you sign the documentation, and then I told him I'll send that over to the title company, my attorney, and then I would say just give me about 2.5 weeks, and we can probably get this thing closed fairly quickly. And he was like, okay, not a problem. I think I sent that out probably like 30, 40 minutes after that conversation. Mm-hmm. He signed it right away, sent it back right away. Then I let him know, like, hey, I'm actually going to go over this with my contractor and kind of get some more rough numbers and see what exactly we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Went over there with actually a buddy of mine who actually bought my first 2 wholesale deals. And he went with me. We walked it. And he kind of helped me get a better understanding of what my numbers should be. And lo and behold, I was pretty much on point with my numbers.
So the repairs and like the ARV and like the asking price that he was looking at?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this before you continue. All right. Yeah. So most people, right? What made you not want to, I guess, come back to him and say, 5,000 is going to be a little bit too much. Can you do 3,500? Like, because most people will probably try to get a little bit more meat off the bone. Like, what was it about this situation where you was like, okay, let me just say, okay, I'll do the 5,000? Because sometimes it can work in the opposite direction where you say you agree to that price, and they be like, well, I don't know, right? They might feel like they could have got more, right? So what made you in this situation be like, okay, yeah, we can make that 5,000 work?
Yeah, so I knew that I was looking to try to get about 5K out of this deal. Like mm-hmm. That was my number. And again, it goes back to kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Is like I have a full-time job, and I love my job, and financially I'm doing all right. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to call it being greedy. Mm-hmm. So for the way I call it is like the universe is giving me an opportunity, this opportunity, and whatever this deal may fall at, whatever number, whether I make 10K on this assignment fee, whether I make 5K on this assignment fee, I'm grateful for it. And that's kind of the attitude I come into some of these deals with. Now I have in the past, been able to negotiate some deals, but because I'm kind of getting back into the flow of things, I'm just at this moment like, you know what, whatever the universe wants to give me on these deals, that's what we're taking. But I also knew that I could easily make a good 5K on this, so I was cool with right. what he wanted, because I knew I could sell it at 10 or at least 10K.
Right. And then one thing for people to understand too, like these are low price points. So for you to make 3,500 on a contract that's like $5,000, that's a pretty good amount. You know what I mean? Because some people probably thinking, dang, he ain't getting 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. Well, if your ARVs are lower, the property needs a higher amount of repairs, then that price need to be lower in order for the buyer to make money on the back end, whether he wants to flip it, whether he wants to rent it out. It has to make sense. So, 3,500 on that low price point is a pretty good spread. Now, let's jump into you walked the property, you walked it with your buddy, kind of, just to confirm the numbers, make sure everything was correct. What's the process for you to find a buyer that's willing to take on a fire damaged property?
Right. So the next step was to go ahead and start marketing it out to buyers and seeing who would be interested. And again, so Dorothy's job right now is to every day she's driving for dollars, and she's also adding buyers to my buyers list. Mm-hmm. And she's doing that by going through Zillow, and she's looking for recently sold properties. And then she's emailing or calling agents and seeing if those agents were working with flippers. Mm-hmm. So that if they are, she adds them to our list.
Wow.
So while that had been going on and she'd been building that list, I think at that time because I had an old buyers list when I first started, but it wasn't accurate. Things have changed. So I'm kind of starting my processes back over. So at that time, we had about 10 buyers on that list. So as soon as I got under contract with Tony, which was his name, mm-hmm. I immediately told Dorothy, like, hey, we got a contract. tomorrow when you come into work, email this out to 10 buyers. So she did that immediately. But then what I did as well, I went and had my fiance go ahead and create like an infographic, like a poster basically that I could post on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and that's how we sent it out. So Dorothy emailed it out. I posted it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and within an hour of it being posted, we started getting people contacting me asking for it. So that's also how you know you may have a good deal, is how quickly your phone starts to ring after you send it out.
Now, were you getting contacted by a lot of different wholesalers as well? Because I know a lot of people, when you start posting on Facebook and Facebook Marketplace and Facebook groups, you start getting, these wholesalers, these daisy chainers, they posing as buyers, but they really want to take the deal and try to push it out to somebody else, which is nothing wrong with that, as long as you make that clear on the up front, right? Say, hey, I'm a wholesaler as well. I may have a connection to some buyers. Then that'll make me open to doing that. But if you're just going to be like, hey, I'm a buyer and not be honest, then that's going to be a problem. So how did you go about like cycling and filtering through all those different people that was contacting you on Facebook?
Absolutely. And that's so true. And from when I started back in 2019 till now, it wasn't such a thing like that. In 2019, I felt like I could market it on Facebook and Craigslist and get
a legit buyer.
I would say legit buyers. Now, what you just said is so true. You're gonna get bombarded with daisy chainers, and again, nothing wrong. That's that's your business model. That's how you're getting to it. Fine, but just say that.
Just say that.
But so what I do is usually once my deals I start getting blown up, I usually always have people try to send me proof of funds. And then I also just try to get on the phone with them and just run down with questions like, how long have you been investing? How many properties do you have? And just try to vet them out as best you can. Sometimes some people will still be that desperate to continue lying to you, and they'll go through it with you. But that's what I try to do. I try to get a proof of funds. I try to vet them on the phone. Usually when you do that, you start to weed them out. They won't respond to you, or they won't give you a proof of funds. And that kind of helps weed them out.
Right. That's good. Because I do that too. If I'm on Facebook, if I got a deal on Facebook and people calling me and reaching out to me and sending me messages. And what I really noticed was when you start trying to vet them, they go away. They don't respond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So did you end up finding your buyer on Facebook, or how did you actually get the buyer?
So we actually found a buyer on Facebook, and man, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Over the years of doing it, and maybe I probably definitely need a better buyers list for sure. But a lot of I believe every last deal I ever had has been sold through Craigslist or Facebook. Wow. And this particular individual, he's starting up his own construction company, him and a partner, and this is their first property that they're buying to fix and then hold it as a rental. So that's how I found my buyer.
Okay, sounds good. So he sent you a message, or he called you on Facebook?
He sent me a message, and then just by the urgency of how he was writing me, and then when I said, hey, proof of funds, and I would like to get on the phone with you to ask some questions, he was completely fine with that. We got on the phone. I asked all these questions. You could tell he was legit. He also sent proof of funds. I was like, okay, let's go meet. It's proper.
And what did you guys list it on Facebook for? What was the asking price there that you were looking for?
See, I should have had that ready. I think I had it at, let me see. I could tell you exactly. 1 second here. About 10K. Yeah.
Okay. And people were biting. He reached out to you. He was like, yeah, I'm interested. Now, what's that conversation like when you get him on the phone and start talking numbers?
So he was pretty much okay with my asking price, but then let me see how exactly did that one go down. Actually, so I had it at 10K. Then something happened when after he looked at it, and he came back at me with 9.
Mm-hmm.
He came back at 9. And again, I'm not at this moment in my journey of wholesaling right now, I'm not being too stern on things. I'm like, okay, 9 is fine. I was like, but I do ask that you put down $500 non-refundable earnest money deposit. So I know that you're serious. And he put it down. So after everything's said and done, we sold it for $9. Yeah.
Okay. Did he go look at the property and then come back to tell you he wanted to do it at $9?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you go with him to look at the property? Or, I mean, obviously the property is vacant, right? So did it have a lockbox on it, or was it just easy access to get in for him?
It was easy access, which I always love those that are like that, because sometimes in the past I've had properties where the seller does not want you having all these people walk through, and it gets very difficult and messy. My best deals have always been the ones where it's vacant or abandoned somehow, and they're like, man, the back door is hanging on hinges. You can go in there. So, and in this scenario, because it was fire damage, it's boarded up. So when I went originally, I just took my drill and just took them off the board off, and I left it like that for anybody who's going to walk through that day. So they walked through, and they called me right after their walkthrough, and they were pretty much like, "We want it, let's do it, but can you do it at 9?"
Right. So was he the only buyer that actually went out there and looked at it?
Nope. I had he was the only buyer, but I had like 4 more ready to schedule to go that day. But because he gave me the 500 EMD right after he had seen it, I was like, okay, I'll take it down. You're showing me that you're serious. I'm cool with that, and we'll do this.
Yeah. So he gave you the EMD directly, or he sent it to the title company?
He gave it to me directly.
Wow.
And then I sent it to Bill Scott, my attorney.
Okay. Wow. I never heard of that. He was ready.
He was ready. Yeah.
He was ready. Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about like that time period, right? So from the time you get the property under contract with the seller to the time you get the property under contract with the buyer with the assignment agreement, what was that time period?
That was probably that couldn't have been no more than a day or so.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quick. Quick turnaround. Yeah, it was about a day, and again, I would say maybe 48 hours max. But to close the entire deal, because I was looking before he hopped on, it was about a month and a week to close the entire deal.
So 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow, that's solid. Wow. So let's go through the numbers real quick, right? Because I mean, that's an easy deal to me, right? You get it up, make one phone call to the seller, right? Yeah. Let's start from the beginning, right? Yeah. VA is virtually driving for dollars, find a lead, you call the seller 12 hours later, once you get off your shift, the seller answers the phone, he's interested in selling, he gives you an asking price of $5,000, you look at the Deal Machine app, analyze the deal real quick, say, oh yeah, that works. You call the seller back, say, yeah, we can do this. Let's get this under contract. Did you get it under contract the same day?
Yeah, yep.
Same day, get it under contract. Then you start marketing the property out to buyers. You send it out to your buyers list. Nobody responds there, but then you go on Facebook, post it on Facebook, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, qualifying buyers. Then you find one guy's interested. He goes look at the property.
Yep.
Initially, you asking $10,000. He comes back and say, "Hey man, I can do 9. Here's my earnest money, $500." Like that, and that's a $4,000 spread right there.
Yep, $4,000 spread. Yep.
All that in the time period of maybe 3 days.
Maybe 3 days max. Yep.
Wow.
It was quick and easy.
This is what people think. This is how people get sold on wholesaling, right? Hey, I made $4,000 in 3 days. It can happen, but what about all that effort that comes in before that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's not what's exposed, right? So what you talked about before is like, hey, you and your team, you and your VA, you guys are constantly every day adding leads, finding leads, right? And making calls to those leads. And then when you get that lead, that's when that quickness happens, when you find somebody that's legitimately motivated and ready to sell.
Absolutely.
So asking price $5,000, right? You listed on Facebook Marketplace for $10,000.
Yep.
But you get a buyer that's interested at 10, but he said, hey, we can do 9. So you're already looking at a $4,000 profit.
Yep.
Now, you only made like $3,500 on the deal. what happened to that extra $500?
Yes. So I think so there were some closing costs. There was closing costs in there, and the buyer didn't want to put anything else towards that because he already gave me 500.
Right.
Then I went back to Tony, the seller, and I asked if he would cover some of that, and he covered like a little bit of it, and I picked up the rest. And
Yeah. So you had to cover closing costs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Which usually I've never had to cover closing costs. Usually in my agreement it says, buyer will pay all closing costs, stuff like that. So, but I didn't care.
I'm a firm believer in doing what you got to do to get the deal done. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So all in all, you made $3,500 in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. By finding a motivated lead and finding a buyer in like 3 days. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, let's get into I got some additional questions about this. So, as we start winding down, what issues did you really, because it sounded like it was pretty smooth. Did you come across any like issues that you had to deal with on this deal at all?
This one, man, I really didn't. If you want to call it an issue, which it really wasn't, is that I couldn't, the closing cost stuff, the buyer didn't want to fulfill that agreement and just pay the closing cost. Again, to me, no problem.
Right.
It's $3,500 more than I had before. So,
right. And then closing costs on a property being that price low is a couple $100.
$200.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Now, what lessons did you learn from this deal? Anything that you can take away outside of what you just mentioned with the closing costs?
Yeah, I would say I'm learning how to try to be more efficient with my systems that we have going right now, which doesn't seem like much right now, but I'm trying to learn how to, having Dorothy drive for dollars virtually while I'm busy is a new thing for me, because before I pull lists and I call them, which I may get back. I may get back to that, but right now I'm trying to maximize this method that I'm doing currently, which is drive for dollars myself, have her drive for dollars virtually, and then from the time we get a lead in there to the time I call them to the time contracts are signed to close, I'm trying to learn how to just keep that well oiled and keep it streamlined. That's the lesson I'm trying to learn as I'm doing these deals again.
Okay, got you. Now, is there anything in particular that you learned about yourself going through this deal?
Yeah. So I learned that I got to learn how to stay pretty even keel whenever you're about to get a deal. Like, you don't want to count all your eggs in one basket and hatch them before you even get them. And that's just because, you never know what could happen. The deal may still not make it to the finish line. So I'm trying to keep my emotions in check and just keep it going on to the next deal, because it's always exciting, man, to be able to generate money like this out of thin air almost.
Right.
And pat yourself on the back and be happy for yourself. So I got to learn how to not to get too high and to kind of stay in the middle whenever I know that I'm about to get a deal done. So yeah.
Yeah, that's real. I feel you on that. You gotta, because this game is it can humble you really quick.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like I always heard something.
Real quick, while we're talking about that, I just want to talk about this real quick. So in 2022, I had a deal that was going to be like 75 odd number $1,000 assignment fee. I had been working on that deal since beginning of 2020. And I mean, I was calling this person every other week from 2020 to 2022, every week, no lie, no joke. I was calling him because that money was on the line. I'm like, okay, and the thing is, he has so many wholesalers calling him, so many, that he found whatever reason to know, like, and trust me to keep saying, like, I'm not ready, but I will sell it to you, but I'm just not ready yet. Just keep calling me back. And then I called him back every single week for almost 2 years, no lie. To the point where then I drove up there to Indy, met him, sat down in his living room, talked. We had a good time. My girlfriend at the time was there. And we're like, man, we're about to do this. Like, we're about to do this deal. Got it under contract right then and there. Then the dilemma that came up, and again, I'm over here counting my eggs in that basket.
Planning
Like,
it out.
I'm
We're
like,
gonna do this. We're
oh,
gonna
we
do bigger.
go, oh
We're
yeah,
gonna buy this.
absolutely, absolutely. And long story short, what kind of messed that deal up was that he would not let me get keys
to the property.
Yes, because he wanted to show up or be there anytime that I was going to try to do my thing.
Yep.
And it kind of, and I'm in, at that time I'm in Illinois. I couldn't get anybody to kind of show the property for me and stuff like that. So it was just a mess at that point. And long story short, the deal fell apart, and then he ended up selling it like a year later to someone else, and they got the deal done. But they cashed it in. They got it. They got it. So yeah, don't get too high. Don't get too low on these deals. Stay even keel and on to the next.
100%. My first deal I was trying to do, I didn't know shit. And I didn't know if it was a good deal or not. Dude asked for like 120. And I was like, yeah, I can do 120, 110. He was like, nah, I want 120. I was like, all right. I waited like a day or two, called him back, was like, yeah, I can do 120. Just was like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, fuck it, let me run it.
Yeah.
He went and signed with somebody else. I checked on that deal probably like 3 months later. I saw that the wholesaler ended up making $35K on that deal. They put it under contract for 120, sold it for 155.
Yep. And that's the same thing. I looked to see what I think they sold it, and whoever had that deal probably made about 80-some thousand on that deal, man.
Never forget it.
Yep. I was like, damn.
Hey, it happens. It happens to everybody, you know what I mean? Yep. But that's part of it. Now, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's, just getting started, looking to close their first wholesale deal, or maybe just struggling to close the next one?
Yeah, so I would say, man, if you're one that loves to like absorb content, eventually at some point in time, you're gonna have to get off that content train and just take action. Whether that's buying a list, whether that's driving for dollars, find your method, stick with it, execute, and just keep moving. Put one foot in front of the other and just apply action. And eventually you'll get there. And for the ones that have done deals and they're just struggling at the moment, maybe look into see how you can make your strategy a bit more efficient. And then that's it, man. Just keep working and it'll happen. You just gotta take it, work at it, grind at it, and you'll get there.
100%. Now, is there anything that you can like point your finger to that contributed to your success wholesaling deals? Like, I know you mentioned, it could be, courses or YouTube or whatever the case may be. Is there anything like specific that helped you the most? Be like, okay, this is what really got me going.
Yeah, I would say it's a few things, accumulation of a few things. One, my daughter, just her being at the time, she was 1 year old at the time. My first deal was a $9,000 deal. And it was like, like a day or two before her birthday. So it was just that much more special, you know what I mean? And her being in this world is just the motivation enough for me to fulfill and give her what I never had and provide for her like I'm supposed to. So just her being around is. Oh, we still there? Sorry, my iPad telling me it's about to die. But yeah, man, my daughter just being around is enough motivation for me, man. And I would say beyond that, I would say Ty the Flipman's channel, man, that really helped me kind of stop bouncing all over YouTube and find someone and just streamline from A to Z.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That's how I was. Like when I first got started, I was jumping around looking at everybody's YouTube channel. Max Maxwell, Ty the Flipman. But the person's content that really stuck with me was Kong, Wholesale to Million. I don't know if you familiar with him. And stuck and I watched all his content, and that's what I was learning and actually learned the process and kind of piece it together. So that's solid. Now,
and then lastly, I would say, I got your bundle stuff too, and your bundle stuff was great because it has all the tools you need in there. So that stuff like that helped as well.
Yeah, simple stuff. All of the necessities to get started. Like people always asking, like, I need this. I need a contract. I need a script. I need a calculator. I need that.
Yeah.
You know, you get something that those are the tools you really need to get started. Other than that, it's just you taking action and start implying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how can people get in contact with you if they want to JV, do deals? I know you said you're in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So for anybody out there that's, you know, doing deals or trying to JV and connect with you that's in Illinois, Indiana, or Ohio, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I have my own YouTube channel that I'm slowly working and building. If you guys want to check it out, I have my first wholesale deal breakdown on that channel. And then I have another deal where I did a mobile
What's the
home.
name of the YouTube channel?
It's just Tyvon Davis. My first name Tyvon, last name Davis. You'll see me in my fire gear. So, yeah, you can reach out on YouTube. Y'all can hit me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Mr. _ Davis 23.
All right, so you guys heard it here. He has his own YouTube channel. He posted up his first deal. You can check out the breakdown there. He also has connections with a lot of the common software companies, like we talked about Deal Machine. I'm gonna go ahead and drop his link to Deal Machine in the description as well. But definitely check out his YouTube channel. He got a whole bunch of value on there as well. And then follow him on social media. So if you have any deals out in that area that he works in, you guys can JV, connect, partner up on deals, and start running it up. So is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you got or you want to add?
Man, I appreciate you guys' time and listening to my little story, my little journey, and continue to get it, man. Let's all eat. Let's all win. If you guys want to hit me
Where
up.
that check at, man?
Man, it's right here, baby. Right here.
Come on, man. Real checks, man. No cap.
Real checks. Exactly. Real checks. We're really out here.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you so much, Tyvon, man, for jumping on the channel. I really appreciate you carving out some time to chop it up with us and break down this deal. Hope you guys got some value out of it. But we're gonna wrap this thing up. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe below. Make sure you follow Tyvon. And then yeah, until next time, see you guys on the next episode. Keep hunting those deals, man. We out.